All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to McDougall's Medicine with Dr. McDougall and Mary. I'm your host, Heather McDougall, and the CEO of the McDougall program. Let's see, I've got this. All right. And let's see, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We thought it would be fun to invite a guest from our 12-day program to tell us a little bit about their experience and then get into various health topics and, of course, to your questions. So I'd like to introduce Beth, who went through our 12-day online course in May of 2022. Hi, Beth. Nice to see you.
Hi, Heather. It's great to see you too.
So tell me about your experience. What brought you to the McDougall program?
Oh my gosh, I've been reading Dr. McDougall and Mary's books for years, literally, and trying very hard to stick with the program for all this time. But for me, the pleasure trap is extremely powerful. And I would get a little bit of traction with this food plan, and then I would be right back in the pleasure trap. And so it was a vicious cycle for me for years. It was very frustrating, very disappointing, made me feel like there was something wrong with me. And I finally made the decision to, I've heard good things about the 12-day program. And frankly, being in Illinois, being pretty far away from California, and it was more affordable. The Zoom format was more affordable. And so I made the investment and the decision to invest in myself and give myself this gift. And it's the best thing that I've done, one of the best things in my life that I've done. I'm excited to report that since I lost a little bit of weight, prior to taking the program, mainly because I got braces on my teeth, and that sort of takes the fun out of recreational eating, if you know what I mean. But since going through the program in May, I've lost a total of about 32 pounds additionally. So I've lost a total of a little over 50 pounds. I'm no longer obese. I am no longer overweight. I am in a healthy BMI range. I feel like I have a little to go, but I'm there. And I'm also medication free, working with Dr. Lim. We tapered off of thyroid medication. I was also on a low dose naltroxone therapy, which is an anti-inflammatory type experimental therapy. My body has never felt better. And I know it's just the food and the compliance, 100% compliance. I feel like I'm finally free. And the course made the difference. I don't know why it's different than, I know Dr. McDougall graciously puts out so much free material, videos, books, the website, everything. But for me, the course is what really helped bring it all together. So I love the support, and I couldn't be happier.
Thanks, Beth. That's great to hear.
Yeah, you gave me a few things that I'd like to address. Low dose naltroxone is been around for quite a while, and it's used to treat chronic fatigue and aches and pains, and it has a very positive record with it. It's a pill form? It's actually an opioid like in heroin and morphine and codeine and those type of things. It's an opioid antagonist, and you take it in doses of 50 milligrams for that reason, to antagonize the effects of opioids. But in low dose, you take it like 2, 4, 4.5 milligrams. In other words, it's low dose. And there's lots of positive reports you will read in the medical literature, and I encourage you to do if you're thinking about taking the therapy. A lot of positive things are said about it in terms of getting rid of aches and pains and getting rid of chronic fatigue. But I can tell you another side of the story, and that is my experience with it has not been positive. The few people I've seen that have taken it, it really didn't make the difference. And I was really happy to hear that Beth was able to get off of it, even though it has very few side effects. It's made by a compound pharmacy. Not that that makes it any safer. Beth was able to get off of it and realize the benefits she was looking for in terms of aches and pains and relief of fatigue just by getting food. So I want to briefly address that. Not that I'm encouraging you to take any medicine, but I think you ought to know what the various options out there, and that's why I addressed it. And as far as losing the weight goes, I can pretty much guarantee you. I can guarantee you. If you follow the diet we recommend, you're gonna trim right down. The
Well,
question,
she easily fit the 4-month cutoff that you tell people you try it for 4 months and see if it works.
right? And if it doesn't work by 4 months, go find some other Joe below to tell you what to do.
By that time, you can tell whether you're going to lose the weight or not.
The fact that you got off thyroid medication, I think, is really important. I'll address the weight in a minute a little bit more, but the fact that you got off thyroid medication is important because a lot of people are put on thyroid medication because they're tired or they can't lose weight. It's not done for real reasons, which is the thyroid gland has been partially or totally destroyed.
I remember that. I actually took thyroid when I was in my teens for that reason. I had a doctor I was working for, and he said, "Here, try a little thyroid, and it'll help you."
Well, there's still that kind of idea going around among patients, particularly doctors shouldn't have that idea because it doesn't do either. And so you should prescribe thyroid medication if the TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is a blood test, is significantly elevated. And doctors vary as far as the amount of elevation that they tolerate before they start medication. But being hypothyroid is really serious. You can go into heart failure. So you need to have this treated if it's a problem. There's this gray area as to whether you should be treated or not treated, and that again depends a lot on your doctor. But why does the thyroid gland get destroyed in the first place? It's an autoimmune reaction. And doctors, every one of them will tell you, the reason you have hypothyroidism is because you have autoimmune thyroiditis, which is also called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, based upon the discoverer of this from Japan in the early 1900s. Autoimmune thyroiditis, it's the body is attacking your thyroid gland. Why? I go through a whole discussion as to why in the lecture that I put up on YouTube on autoimmune diseases. It's the body attacks itself because you eat foreign thyroid glands, pig thyroid and cow thyroid. It comes in the form of hot dogs and sausages. So you destroy the gland. Now you need to put on a supplement. In Beth's case, she was put on natural thyroid, like Armour thyroid. And people think natural, it's better than Synthroid. Well, I don't think so. I was trained to use Synthroid, synthetic thyroid. And that's part of the bias that I have, is the way I was trained. But the other thing that is brought up about natural thyroid that comes from pig thyroid glands and cow thyroid glands, primarily pig thyroid glands, is that it's variable in its dose and you can't really rely upon it.
Oh, it smells terrible. I remember opening the jar and it smells terrible.
It smells like dead pigs and cows. Anyway, the other concern I have is you're feeding glands from animals to yourself. And these glands, they have all kinds of really serious microbes. They have prions, like mad cow disease. They have leukemia and lymphoma viruses and other cancer viruses. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'd never prescribe Armour thyroid, even though I know a lot of you are on it. And the reason I prescribe Synthroid is because it doesn't have these viruses and it's more reliable. And that's the way I was trained. So that's what I would comment. The other thing is, I know a lot of you are interested in Beth's weight losses. The problem is rarely, if ever, that the recommendations we have fail. The problem is that it's a lot to ask of people to make these kinds of changes, even though it's harder to make moderate changes. Moderation kills. But to get around to deciding you've had enough, years of frustration, of yo-yoing back and forth, to decide, look, you've had it. You want to learn the way to get control. And that control, I think, is a big word. And to have the personal appearance that you deserve. Then you do the program. You do a starch-based diet. In other words, most of your food is rice, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, with the addition of fruits and vegetables. And Mary spent years producing recipes in our cookbooks and are free on the internet, free on our website, and are for sale in the mobile McDougall cookbook for $5, 1,000 recipes. She made it work. Otherwise, I could talk till I was blue in my face, so they speak, and And I wouldn't get you to do it if the food didn't taste great. But as Beth will probably tell us, is she hasn't had a problem at all with tasting the food and enjoying it and sticking with it.
I absolutely love my food.
What's your favorite starch?
Potatoes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're very satisfying. The most satisfying of all foods are potatoes.
It's still feels like a miracle to be this happy with my food in terms of just loving to eat it, and this satisfied and never hungry, and just kind of steadily losing weight. It's just it feels like a miracle.
No, it's really simple, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
you know, we just wish everybody would learn this and at least give it a try. And a try, well, the best environment to try it under is our 12-day program, because we're there to support you every day. Our support specialists come to you over the internet and help you with your planning your meals and your blood sugars and your blood pressures and your cholesterols and how you're feeling. And the education is top notch. I mean, you get Doug Lyle and Jack Dixon and Jeff Novick in there to work you over. You really get some brainwashing done.
And the support after, the intensive 12 days made a difference in getting me going, getting me on solid ground and moving forward. But then the long-term support that you offer through this program is just amazing. Doing 8 weeks of weekly check-ins with my support specialist, who is Tiffany. She's wonderful. And then, beyond that, every month I still meet with her. I've chosen to pay for an extra meeting a month. So I meet with her twice a month just to make sure I stay on track. And so there's so many different support mechanisms that are part of this program, and it's really making a difference for me.
Well,
So
we really
Beth, people are asking what some of your favorite meals are.
Oh my gosh. I eat so simply now. It probably, sounds really boring, but I love my food. Last night I had mashed potatoes and Mary's golden gravy. And I eat a lot of saute or steamed cabbage. I love cabbage, so I eat a lot of steamed cabbage. I eat probably an insane amount of watermelon at this time of year, an embarrassing amount. But my meals are simple. I usually start with vegetable soup, and I like it spicy, so I spice it up with some Mrs. Dash concoctions, and follow that with vegetables and then potatoes. I also love just baked potatoes with ketchup.
I love it. Thank
Yeah,
you. We love to keep it simple too.
Yeah, we can relate.
Didn't we have, you had some leftover mashed potatoes.
You had leftover mashed potatoes yesterday.
You ate the leftover mashed potatoes and the brown gravy. I got the brown gravy over the top of sweet potatoes.
And a baked potato too.
And a baked potato, yeah. So it goes a long way. The food is great for leftovers. It doesn't spoil readily. And
this was 3 or 4 days later.
it tastes really good. In fact, some of the recipes taste better after they've sat around and mixed up for a while. So it's cheap too. I mean, you cut your food bill somewhere between 50 and 80%, depending upon how often you used to go out to dinner.
But I think in the beginning, when I first started doing the recipes, I thought everything had to be really complicated. And so I did a lot of recipes that took a long time to prepare. And then we did the quick and easy cookbook. So it only took 15 minutes to prepare things. And I used a lot of canned beans and things that you didn't have to cook for a long time. And it's really only been in the last couple of years that I've really made it simple and just gone for, baked potatoes with some vegetables on the side. Or, we'll have just a simple potato soup with bread for dinner. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of food. It just has to be very satisfying. And so I'm really glad to hear that you like the simple things too.
I do. And Mary, another item that I really like is your smashed beans.
Oh,
I like those too.
it sounds really, all it is beans.
Yeah.
You just mash them up.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing all that, Beth. That was great. Let's see, questions are coming into the chat, and people are wondering if this diet works for diabetes.
Oh, yeah. How often does it work for type 2 diabetes? 100%.
All the time.
In other words, the cure rate for type 2 diabetes is 100%. The cure rate for type 1 diabetes is 0. You have to take insulin. That there's something in between. There's a spectrum between type 1 and type 2. And I call that type 1.5 diabetes. In that case, sometimes you'll need to have some supplemental insulin. But 1 shot a day of long-acting insulin is the most that my patients end up taking. You know, type 1 diabetic, occasionally a little bit more, but not much more. And that's an important part, is getting the blood sugar under control or curing the diabetes. Why do I know it's curable at that rate? Because just doing bariatric surgery, in other words, rearranging your gut, as surgeons are so happy to do, the cure rate is close to 80%. You know, if they can do 80%, we can do 100%. Plus, you're likely to stick with it and be a lot happier by changing your diet. Anyway, the other major issue is complications. Within 11 to 17 years, almost all diabetics have gone through a major complication. They've lost their sight or kidney function or developed a heart disease or died. You know, it's a deadly problem. It's a serious metabolic handicap that can be cured with type 2 diabetes or benefited greatly with type 1 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics need to follow this way more than anybody I can think of because they are at such risk of early death and complications. And if you listen to the lecture that is on YouTube on diabetes, you'll hear all the research. You can go back and look up the studies if you want, and you'll see what I tell you is true. If you eat a starch-based diet like we recommend, you will get phenomenal results, far better than you ever imagined. Far better than your doctors, and they talked about it on TV too. I listened to the commercials about the different diabetic medications. They talk about managing your disease. Managing your disease, that means managing it, not curing it. They switch you from one drug to the next. That's what they do. That's standard medical talk these days. And if you come to our program and get a chance to talk to Dr. Lim, who's our medical director, he'll tell you he doesn't manage disease anymore. Anyway, you get the rest of the line, the rest of the story. He doesn't need to because our patients get well. But anyway, that was great, Beth. You have any more questions for Beth, Heather?
Well, yeah, some are coming in. They're wondering if you do the 50-50 plate.
No, there was a maximum weight loss.
Yeah, I actually do utilize the maximum weight loss 10-point checklist as a daily guide. What I'm learning is to not be perfectionist about it in the extreme, but to use it as targets so that most of the time I'm within the maximum weight loss guidelines. So one of the things that Jeff Novick clarified for me recently is not to worry so much about the actual plate. You don't have to have a plate with half starches on it and half vegetables on it. You just need to be eating enough of all of that. So if it's all combined into a 1-dish meal, that's fine. Most of the time I sequence and eat my soup first, then my vegetables, then my starches, but I'm absolutely visually achieving 50-50 in almost every meal.
The one caution I would offer you, and this is what I taught in the McDougall program for maximum weight loss, which I published 34 years ago, is that you got to be careful about eating too many non-starchy green yellow vegetables because they're not satisfying. You're not going to get satisfied on kale or lettuce or broccoli or cabbage or celery. They provide bulk, but no real satisfaction. You've got to eat enough starch to be satisfied. And that's why the general McDougall diet is that 90% of your calories come from rice, corn, potatoes, beans, breads, pastas. And then if you want to push things a little harder, you increase the percentage of green and yellow vegetables. But don't push too hard. You'll be off our program and on to the next one.
Well, 50-50 should be fine, though, right?
Well, that's what I call okay.
Yeah.
That's what I call aggressive. for somebody who wants to lose weight really fast.
And most people do.
But what happens when you get down to trim weight? You don't want to lose any more weight and people start laughing at you.
Then do you eat more starches? You go back, we got to 90%.
I would think so.
Okay.
Or you find out you don't have enough energy.
Well, thank you. That's great. So there's a question that came in from Una about the program. So she wants to take the 12-day program, but it's a huge investment. She's gone back and forth, tried vegan before, but hasn't really been able to adapt it. So she's wanting to know how the program will help her transition from the typical American diet to a whole food plant-based diet and make it easy, make it comfortable.
Well, I think we have an expert here that could tell us better than I could. I mean, the amount of education and support is what I would tell you. But Beth probably has a lot more personal ways to answer that question.
It's like someone grabbing your hand and walking you through everything step by step by step for 12 solid days. And during the program, we talked about virtually every aspect of this thing, from having, a doctor supporting you, not only Dr. McDougall, but Dr. Lim, to Heather's talks on food preparation and meal planning, Dr. Lyle talking about all the psychological aspects, Jeff explaining the principles of calorie density, which now it's really funny. It's like I have a little Jeff that sits on my shoulder all the time when I'm planning my meals, when I'm in the grocery store. He's like in my ear all the time. And even though I read a lot of material, watched a lot of videos, went to the forum, did all these things for years before taking the 12-day program, it took you guys taking me by the hand and walking me through step by step by step. And I wish I had found a way to pay for this course long before I did. I think it has tremendous value. It just was a game changer for me because it was like the glue that put all those pieces together.
I'd like to add a couple other things that I think are really helpful. Is Mary and I kind of get together with you every morning and make it casual, something we can't do in a lecture setting. And we get to know you a little bit. But more important, is you have a session once a day where you get together with fellow participants. And none of our staff are there. You guys get to talk about us. You get to talk about the program. You get to talk about how you're doing. And what we found is this kind of interaction has been some of the most valuable interaction because it gets real personal. You make friends the rest of your life. These meetings continue on with most of our programs. You've made friends and you continue to support each other.
Yeah, that's been a great portion of the program because I hear about you connecting via Zoom, months and years after the course. So it's great to make that connection because when you're following this lifestyle, sometimes you feel alone because there aren't a lot of people out there. So if you have a community via Zoom, that can be, the next best thing. So let's see, questions. So we were talking about diabetes a little bit, Dr. McDougall, and the question came up that I always get is, my blood sugar goes up after I eat potatoes.
It's supposed to. It's supposed to. Many of you came into the program not eating. You were hungry. And you're used to having low blood sugars because you didn't eat. The other thing, you came into the program on keto diets, which are low carb diets. So there's basically no sugar to raise your blood sugar. There's no direct sugar to raise your blood sugar for sure. And so you're used to your blood sugars being low after you eat. When you quit the low carb diets and you go on a high carbohydrate diet, what happens is the sugar in the blood goes up as it's supposed to. That's what's supposed to happen after you eat is the sugar goes up. What you're looking for, the other thing that happens is many of you stop medication. And we see that, in fact, the first day of the program, we stop probably 90% of people or reduce the dose of their medication. So they're dealing with that. They no longer have the powerful drugs lowering their sugar. But the goal is to cure the problem. And that takes a little time. That takes several days. So you have to give it a break. You can't just make a judgment after 1 or 2 or 3 meals.
Yeah, but isn't the way that you diagnose diabetes fasting blood sugar?
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't test people after they've eaten
that's a
and
good
find out
point.
if
That's
they
a
have
good-
diabetes.
you
You
do.
test them when they haven't eaten.
But that's right. You should test your fasting blood sugars. That'd give you a better assessment when you're having it. Thank you.
Not after you've eaten.
Yeah,
My
sugar
my
goes up.
sugar would be up after I ate.
I hope my sugar goes up after I eat.
That's the idea.
Yeah, that's what's supposed to happen. But anyway, if that confuses you temporarily, what you need to do is stick with the program. And what you'll find is that your blood sugars come down in essentially all cases of type 2 diabetes. If you have type 1.5 diabetes, in other words, you make a little insulin, but not enough to keep your blood sugar normal, then you'll find your blood sugars do go up because you don't produce enough insulin from your pancreas. You produce some, but not enough. And in that case, I'll often give a little shot of long-acting insulin. And what that does is it stops the weight loss, because you have profound weight loss if you're diabetic with uncontrolled sugar, because insulin pushes fat into fat cells. So if I put you on a little insulin, you'll maintain your weight. I know you're sitting there laughing. I'm going to lose weight? I'm going to lose too much weight? Well, you will if you're type 1.5 diabetic. And of course, type 1 diabetics always have to be on insulin. But they reduce the dose by about 1/3. And then they stop living a life of tests and treatments. When you're a type 1 diabetic, you're checking your blood sugar all day long, or you even have machines that check your sugar. And all you're talking to your friends and family about is your blood sugar and how much insulin you took. Hey, there's more to life than this meter or than these constant shots.
Yeah, I mean, I see these ads on TV where these people have these little discs on their arm and they put their phone up to their disc
Oh, yeah.
all the time when they're shopping and when they're doing everything just to check how their blood sugar is doing.
Check it every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get any shopping done. Yeah, it's a bizarre world out there. The goal should be to cure you. Even if we could cure only 80% of people, okay, wouldn't that be worth it? Or even 50, even 10% would be worth it. But the goal should be to cure you, and nobody's offering you the cure. The cure is as plain and simple as the food. Type 2 diabetes does not exist in parts of the world or in times in history when people ate starch-based diets. For example, research out of China in the year 2013, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, talked about how before 1980, there was no type 2 diabetes in China. And yet 90% of their diet was rice. And since 1980, with change in diet in China, because of cable news network, because of transportation, economics, and so on,
How about franchise restaurants?
those two, a full 12% of the Chinese are now frankly diabetic. In other words, they meet the definition and need for treatment. And half are pre-diabetic. And that's happened in all Asian countries up and down the coast. Thailand, Vietnam, Japan. As people give up their starch-based diet, they develop type 2 diabetes. When half the population has pre-diabetes and another 10, 12, 14% have real diabetes, that's most of the people are sick. There's something wrong. You can blame your genes if you want, but that's not
They
the
all
problem.
want to eat like we do, or like we used to.
I don't think so, man. I just think people don't know better. That's all they've had a chance to learn to like.
So the new food comes along and they want to try it. And
Well, it's
they get-
different. It's different. It's they're
Okay.
used to this glob of meat and this blob of fat filling their stomach.
Well, it's like Beth said, it's the pleasure trap. You get caught into this pleasure trap and you just start eating this stuff and you can't get away from it.
And it's so convenient. The food offered, period, is rich food. It's almost impossible to eat out.
Nobody wants to cook anymore.
And society supports this level of obesity. Look at your television commercials. They don't have trim, healthy looking people anymore. in the commercials, the ones that advertise drugs and cars and real estate, they're all sporting an extra 40, 50, 60 pounds. You're just like me. Well, maybe you don't want to be just like everybody else. I certainly hope a trend starts the other direction. As far as making the food taste better, we allow a little salt and a little sugar on the surface of the food. If you don't like the food, you're missing the salt. Take the salt shaker, dump a half a teaspoon of salt on the surface of your food all day long. That's a lot of salt. And you'll get a tremendous amount of taste.
Well,
with very little sodium.
people think we don't allow any seasonings either.
Yeah.
That we're just talking about bland foods, and you can season things with all kinds of great tastes. And
in distinction to that, I'd like to remind them that they don't like boiled chicken. They're not even baked beef. You always want to put a salt, sugar, and spice sauce over the top, like steak sauce. Okay, you don't like these foods. You won't drink oil, which is the other component of your food that's poisoning you. You wouldn't drink a glass of olive oil. You've got to dilute it with other ingredients so you can get it down. This is a disgusting part of your diet that you're giving up. Look at it from that point of view. Like Beth says, she likes her food.
She likes it spicy too. So you use a lot of spices and hot sauces, right, Beth?
Yes, I sure do.
People say they'd eat cardboard with sriracha on it.
Well, the golden gravy, that's very popular. You find some sauces, some gravies that you enjoy, and that can make a big difference. Let's see, next question. Can you talk about this is from Jason. Can you talk about the Hippocratic Health Institute?
A little bit. I think this is the one run by Virginia Livingston.
Well, he says raw vegan, wheatgrass, generally higher
I get it. There's a few of them. There's the Gerson therapy. There's another one in San Diego, which was run by Livingston, Virginia Livingston. And then there was one on the East Coast. There they ate a lot of wheatgrass and raw foods. And I think these are all very interesting. I know a little bit about some of them. I actually did some television shows on Virginia Livingston's program, which was run out of San Diego. Very famous program. And so I'm a little bit familiar. It's just been the time that distanced me from, really understanding and remembering the details of the programs. And I don't think they'll do you any harm. But too often what you'll do is you'll go to one of these programs that's often outside the country. They run them in Mexico. And not only will you get the wheatgrass and the high vegetable diet, but they give you cancer chemotherapy and radiation too. They give you a whole bunch of standard therapy to make you think something's been accomplished, because these therapies they make tumors smaller. They don't make you live longer. They make, so that you can see some real benefits. I'd have to say at best, these approaches do you no harm. Hopefully they'll do you some good. And
well, if you're just eating raw food though, you're not eating any starch.
No, you're losing a lot of weight too.
Because it's real hard to eat raw
Well,
starch.
the idea is, you're right. The idea is that you need more nutrients to go in and fight the cancer, and that will somehow force the cells to become normal. It doesn't work that way. You get adequate amount of nutrients in a starch-based diet. If you take in more nutrients than you need, what do you do with them? You urinate them out? You don't absorb them? What do you do with them? If you need a certain amount of folic acid, beta carotene, vitamin E, etc., to make the body function at its best, what do you do with the extra? The machinery only runs so well. So, pushing it from that end doesn't work. What you need to do is you need to unburden your body from the poisons, which are easily classified as animal foods and oils. And then you need to fill the body up with starch-based foods, like 99.99% of the people ever walk this earth consumed. Like corn in Central America and Mexico, like rice in Asia, like potatoes in South America. It's been the diet of people. And then the body functions at its best, and pushing it by feeding it, sprouts and, more lettuce, et cetera. I don't have the information that says it works, nor do I have information that says it doesn't work. Extremely little has been published. There was one paper published by Virginia Livingston's group where they compared the American Cancer Society to her results. And they found out to standard medical cancer results. And the claim was, you see, they got the same results. So obviously her program doesn't work. My conclusion was, see, they got the same results. It's obviously standard medicine doesn't work. Anyway, it's been a long history. I've been at this for half a century.
Thank you. Next question. This is from Nene, wanting to know if you can have smoothies for breakfast. They don't really like oatmeal, and they're thinking oatmeal is the only thing we have for breakfast.
Well, I would say smoothies. That when I think of them being fruit, pulverized fruit, and we don't recommend a large amount of fruit in the diet at all, particularly fruit juices. So smoothies would be frozen pulverized fruit. I don't think you should do that. I think that should be a minor part of your diet. Then you do not improve the quality of a fruit or vegetable by hitting it 1,000 times with a steel blade.
And you don't have to have oatmeal for breakfast.
Oh,
We have
yes,
recipes for pancakes and French toast, and you don't have to eat cereals for breakfast. You can have potatoes for breakfast.
You could have leftover bean burritos.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Just like you used to eat leftover pepperoni pizza. You could get leftover pizza made of the right ingredients that Mary.
Eat that for breakfast.
Oh, I love it for breakfast sometimes, Mary. She makes it the right ingredients, but now, there are lots of different things. It just happens to be that Mary and I like oatmeal, and I know how to make it. And so every morning I make oatmeal with fruit, frozen fruits. And
But every once in a while, we'll have a big platter of hash brown potatoes.
especially when the grandkids are over.
Yeah.
They like their potatoes. And
Or I'll make pancakes.
yeah, when the grandkids are over,
Yeah.
right? But otherwise, it's just plain and simple and repetitive. We like it that way.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next question. Mom, people are wondering what your favorite dish is.
Oh, I don't know.
Bangkok noodles.
I was just going to say that. Probably the Bangkok noodles. Yeah. The rice noodles with the peanut soy sauce mixture that goes over the noodles, some baked tofu chunks with it, and shredded cabbage.
It's not the most perfect meal. She uses low-fat peanut concoctions. So there's low-fat peanuts ingredients. And there's a little soy sauce. And you can make the argument that you shouldn't be doing either. And I think those of you who are on terrible heart failure and terrible kidney failure do not need to do that. You need to be real strict.
But there are other sauces that you could put on top of the noodles. I wonder how the brown gravy would work on the noodles.
Probably really good.
Probably really
With a
good.
little sriracha on top of it.
Yeah,
That brown gravy's good on anything.
it is.
You stop and think about it. You like starch. You love bread and pasta and potatoes and corn. Why do you think you like these things? It's because it's your food. Your tongue tastes with pleasure starch. Your whole intestinal tract is made up to digest starch. This was not a mistake of nature.
Well,
You are a starch
You
eater.
often hear about people that are on the keto diet or the paleo diet,
From
and
Atkins.
and then they say, "Oh, you mean I can have starch?" like it's a forbidden food, and it is a forbidden food to
They
them.
desire it.
So they want it.
And people are on the American diet, or worse yet, on the keto type diets. You're starch, sugar deprived during the entire meal. And it's carbohydrate, it's sugar, complex sugar and even simple sugar that satisfies the hunger drive. So here you spend the whole meal chewing through unsatisfying foods, a piece of pie laden with sugar and fat, a piece of cake, a dish of ice cream, and you say, this is like a drug.
But it's
Because-
all carbohydrate.
Yeah, I know, but you get this concentrated dose of what satisfies the hunger drive. Yeah, it acts like a drug, especially when you've deprived yourself the whole meal through. You're waiting and waiting and waiting, and it appears. Well, if you eat a high starch, high carbohydrate diet, when you get to the end and you have a dessert, and we have hundreds of desserts, they're really, really good. It doesn't have that overwhelming attraction for you. You know, it's not like you think it's a drug and it is acting that way in your body. There's nothing wrong with you. You just got to learn the right set of rules.
Thank you. This question's from Rita. If you have degenerative disc disease and herniated discs with pinched nerves and arthritis in the neck, can this diet help?
Probably not. It can help prevent it, but once you have these kinds of collapses, and you basically end up with degenerative bone disease, which is extra bone that's been built, or you ended up with a ruptured disc, and that disc is no longer inflated. So it's not likely to get better. Maybe there's some excuse that just chronic pain gets better. We kind of started the conversation out by discussing, chronic pain that people have. So maybe it's helped a little bit that way, but I wouldn't claim a success for that. But I would tell you the reason you got degenerative disc disease is because of what you ate. If some doctor, like you said, says you have degenerative disc disease, your response should be, why did it degenerate? Why did my disc degenerate? It's not like I lifted up a Volkswagen or a piano and it ruptured. I just took a step or turned my neck and it ruptured. What caused it to degenerate? What caused it to degenerate is poor blood supply to the spine. It gets atherosclerosis, just like in your heart, gives you heart attacks, and your brain gives you strokes. And, it's just this all over the body. And when atherosclerosis settles in the spinal column, you get back pain, in other words, angina, like you'd have in your heart. You get back pain and you get degenerative disc disease. And, that's how you get it. So how you prevent it is you eat a good diet. And by the way, when you come to the program, all that research is what I make available for people to read. You'll find I'll give you the articles that that show you on autopsy how people with degenerative disc disease have, massive amounts of atherosclerosis in the arteries going to their spine.
Thank you. This next question is from Samantha. Can you talk about neurological disorders like tics?
I don't know what causes tics. I could tell you a whole big story about how diet does it by compromising the vasculature to the nerves, which cause you to have tics. They're spasms, and usually in the facial area. But I've been just making up the story, so I'm not going to do it. It could be a viral infection, could be trauma to the nerve. Could be a dietary issue, but I really don't know, and I don't know of an easy way to get rid of them.
So it's something that happens to the nerve that causes it.
It's the nerve that's ticking.
Okay.
I think I got it right.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you talk about intermittent fasting? Do you have an opinion about it?
I think it's a waste of your time. But it's common. I mean, most religions offer some type of fasting as part of their religious sect. So, other people feel differently. They feel it's going to be a benefit. But what happens is you starve yourself for a day or two, either by just drinking juices or maybe a water fast. And then when you come back to eating, you just eat the same food that got you sick in the first place, and you make up for it. Now, that's intermittent fasting to me is, an amount of pain and suffering you must go through to accomplish little or nothing. As far as long-term fasting goes, which is done at True North, which is an organization that used to be 2 city blocks from our residential clinic. And there have been friends of mine for 35 years. They'll take and feed you water for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or longer, and you'll get better. Why? Because it's the ultimate low cholesterol, low fat, low everything diet, water. And the body, they believe, has an increased ability to heal on a fasting condition. I'm not so sure about that. I've been listening to that for years. I'm not so sure about that. I think if you just give the body really good stuff, that it is enough for it to do the healing it needs to do.
Well,
it's a good way to get people to change their diet too. After you spend 2 weeks at True North, just drinking water, I want to guarantee the McDougall diet is the best food you ever ate. And they'll send you home on the McDougall diet, except for they won't give you salt or sugar. But you'll still love it because it's like the prisoner of war who was locked in a cell for months or years, and then they were offered water and bread, and they say the water tastes like wine and the bread tastes like the best steak I ever had. The deprivation may be good for you. And then you say, okay, if I got a choice, I could starve all the time or I can get with it and do the program. Because you got to do the program anyways. Fasting is temporary, folks. You don't do it for very long.
well, I think sometimes when I read about intermittent fasting, it means that you don't eat after 4 o'clock at night and you fast until breakfast the next morning.
How about if I don't eat for 2 hours?
That's intermittent fasting.
That's intermittent fasting. I won't eat when I'm sleeping. How about that?
Yeah.
You can set whatever rules you want. I don't care. I haven't experienced benefits from. I have experienced benefits from a total water fast. I think people do. They do well, but I don't think it's the price that most people have to pay.
And we encourage eating. We really want you to eat when you're hungry, eat till you're comfortably full. Did you feel deprived at all, Beth?
Absolutely not. I eat an insane amount of food. Insane.
I love that though. That's how it should be.
That's the whole idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that eating, I can put down a lot of food. I mean, that's the problem. When I was putting down, however many pounds a day on average most people eat, I probably eat a little bit more than that. I probably eat 5 to 6 pounds of food a day. And, now I can be trim eating that much. When I was eating the standard American diet, I couldn't be trim and eat that much food, so my body loves it.
And you feel satisfied because it's carbohydrate that satisfies the hunger drive. The science is clear. You don't get any satisfaction from eating fats or oils. It's sugar, carbohydrate. And we serve the carbohydrate in the form of rice and corn and potatoes. And that's the carbohydrate we want you eating. Don't misinterpret and say, well, the McDougall diet is table sugar. It's not. Maybe we'll give you a teaspoon a day on the surface of your food, but that's it. So you need to eat what satisfies the hunger drive. It's just like oxygen satisfies your breath. No other mixture of gases will do it. Only oxygen will. And thirst is only satisfied by not alcohol. What's thirst satisfied? By water. And hunger is satisfied not by food. You're not being specific enough. It's satisfied by carbohydrate. That ain't never going to change. That's the way you're built. And you're going to suffer until you learn that.
So Abigail wants to know if she can have a starch-only meal. Is that okay?
Oh, sure. It's fine. You can live on potatoes and water. Sweet potatoes and water. These are what we call below ground storage organs. In other words, they grow below the ground. Above ground storage organs, which are your grains and your legumes. We also call them as a group seeds. Your above ground storage organs, you must add a fruit or vegetable to that program because they're deficient in vitamin A, beta carotene, not just vitamin A, beta carotene, and vitamin C. So if you're going to eat an above ground storage organ based diet, in other words, rice, corn, beans, millet, you're going to add a fruit or vegetable. How much? A slice of orange.
But you don't have to
a flowerette of broccoli.
You don't have to do that every meal though, right?
No,
you just have to do it every day.
You don't even have to do it every day.
Oh, okay.
You could do it just once in a while. The body will hold on to vitamins more than a few minutes. So it's just that. If it wasn't that simple, how would the human being have survived for a million years without a dietitian following us around or a dietetic handbook? The environment has to be correct for our needs. The food has to be right. And up until recently, all except for kings and queens ate starch. In Egypt, they built the pyramids on barley, and wheat. In China, they built the Great Wall on rice. I know they did. You know, the Native American lived on corn. They're the people of the corn. That's been the diet of all human beings up until we got really bizarre and we started eating like kings and queens. And we got obese and gout and diabetes like the royalty of the past. That's what happened. It's just a weird blip in human history, which hopefully will get over soon. But the suffering's terrible, not just for people, but for the planet.
Absolutely. Let's see. Andrew wants to know what the symptoms are of low omega-3s. I rarely eat flax seeds, maybe once a month. I'm whole food plant-based and I eat some nuts and seeds.
Your signs are that your supplement salespeople are unhappy. Because omega-3 fats are only made by plants. No animal makes omega-3s. The reason fish have omega-3 is because they eat algae or seaweed. So where you get the omega-3 from is plants. You're not designed to eat omega-3 pills or to even eat concentrated flaxseed. Now, yes, you can get higher doses of omega-3s, but I've never seen any benefit. I've never seen, in fact, I can see people gaining weight eating all this seed oil. You know, I'm sorry, I'm lacking in benefits from eating omega-3s. You know, they can't make claims like it stops Alzheimer's disease. It's nonsense. The research doesn't show that. You know, it used to be the Heart Association recommended fish fat for people to prevent heart disease. They don't do that anymore because it doesn't work. You know, this is just a way for a bunch of supplement salesmen, steak oil salesmen to make money, millions of dollars.
Well, they sell ground flaxseed.
They sell pills and potions.
Yeah, right. Omega-3 fat pills, right?
Yeah.
Fish oil pills.
Fish oil. I'm doing a lecture on vitamin D, and one of the interesting things I found out about vitamin D is it's made from lanolin, sheep's wool. So you vegans out there, think about it twice about the sheep's wool derivative that you're eating into poor sheep. Bet you never knew that. That's how they make vitamin D3. Lanolin. Disgusting. But you want to be better. I know you do. I know that things aren't as easy as you remember them. And I know we're getting older and, you know, maybe we forget things just like we did when we were 20, but now it's more important now that we're 70. I know that. And you're looking for a solution. And there's somebody out there to sell you a miracle. Take your money. It's not true. The science says it's not true. So in fact, for alumni, people who've been through the program, I'm doing a lecture at the end of this month on supplements and on vitamin D. That's one of the other perks of being an alumni of the program is I'll do lectures intermittently that are only open to our alumni. But most of the stuff is free and available on YouTube. So don't worry about it. You're not missing a lot, a little. But it's, anyway, that's enough.
Thank you. Next question. We've just got 5 minutes left, but I think I can fit in a few more. This is from Macro Artist. When we're shedding weight this fast, does the fat being delivered into the bloodstream pose possibility of blood clots causing a heart attack or nerve damage?
No, it doesn't do that. And I don't know why. I guess the body just knows how to get rid of that extra burden. But what it does do is it releases stuff that you've stored in your body fat. Stuff, I mean cholesterol and uric acid and PCBs, you know, pesticides and DDT. I mean, these are all fat-soluble chemicals. So your environmental contaminants are stored in your body fat. And when you lose weight, these chemicals and the cholesterol and the uric acid come out into the bloodstream. You can see that. And one of the concerns that I have for pregnancy is that you women have spent a lifetime accumulating environmental chemicals. And if you decide to breastfeed, you'll dump half your pesticide load into the baby in the first 6 months of life. Breast milk is so toxic with its environmental chemicals that the EPA declared it a health hazard back in the 1970s. It's even worse today. Inuit Eskimo women, they say their breast milk is so polluted that it needs to be buried in a toxic dump. What a way to end a session, Heather.
And you still recommend breastfeeding?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. but you want to clean up your body when you're young. This is why you want to appeal to your children and grandchildren. And of course, before you get pregnant, you need to get the fat off and the health back, because the baby suffers not just from the pregnancy that the mother delivers, but suffers from breastfeeding, which is, you're darn right, I recommend breastfeeding.
Well, I'm glad I was eating fairly good when I had my kids.
Especially the last one.
The last one especially, yes.
Well, the childcare and nursing and pregnancy, that can be a whole nother session.
Yeah.
Well, I just threw that in, Heather, because it's one way for people to understand what they're doing to themselves. These environmental chemicals cause cancer. They promote cancer. They do brain damage. They cause Parkinson's disease. And we know this. The science is clear. Look it up.
Let's see. Can we fit one more in? Let's see. Everyone wants to know when your talk on vitamin D is coming. So we're going to be doing that for alumni on the 31st of this month, but we'll be putting it on YouTube after that.
For everybody else.
Yeah.
Yes.
With a question and answer period, and it's free to the alumni. So you have the aging and the preserving your mind lecture schedule, don't you, Heather?
September 11th, but it's sold out.
Okay. Well, we're going to do it again. So as soon as you write Heather and tell her you want to get on the list, but it's sold out. We only have 100 people, question and answers. It's a presentation I will not give to the public. It's something that, has really took a lot of work, and we feel that we can fairly sell it to people. This information is inexpensive and you won't be disappointed. But anyway, we'll run another session as soon as now that you know this one's sold out. Why don't you put another one up, Heather? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put another sign-up sheet up.
There's already one on the website.
All right. So anyway, you can.
So what we have to do is, before we end, is decide what we're going to talk about next Sunday.
We had so much fun with Beth.
Yeah.
Thank you,
great.
Beth. It was a great session. I'd like to try this again, Heather, to have a participant. I think it'll be hard to top Beth, but to have somebody that's been through the program. Of course, we're going to pick people who have nice things to say. Fortunately, almost everybody has nice things to say.
Yeah.
You'll find that out as you get involved in the program, and we'll find somebody. Let's do that next time. Find somebody who's got some interesting problems, and we can address different diseases that way. And of course, I come fairly unprepared. I don't study before I talk to you, so I only.
Well, you don't really need to study.
Sometimes I don't remember things, but I can look them up for you.
Not too often.
Well, thank you so much, Beth, for being here. It was great to hear your story and hear how well you're doing. So I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for doing everything that you guys do.
All right.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Beth.
Yeah, we'll join you all next Sunday, 5:00. Tell your friends, tell your relatives, even the ones that are resistant, that they got to come and meet these McDougall's. They're okay.
All right. Thanks, Mom and Dad, Dr. McDougall and Mary. Thank you, everyone. See you all next Sunday at 5 p.m.